the preface to the book, we charge the students the same amount that they would pay at the copy machine. So we get a $7 royalty fee for the assignment sheets and the rubrics and things that students would pay if they went to the copy machine anyways. And so we collected that funds, and all of it is used for full and part-time professional development. So we've hosted scholars in composition and rhetoric to come to campus, Krista Radcliffe, Michael Palmquist, Peter Adams, and we've had them come to campus and do remote professional development for both full and part-time faculty. And we've been able to open up that professional development to every NCTC faculty member who wants to attend, both part-time and full-time. I included there the cost of the bundle because that's sometimes important. And one of the reasons we did this is to kind of meet the students' needs for keeping the textbooks affordable. So for students who require 9 hours of first-year composition, it comes out to about $40 a course for all of their textbooks. For students who only need 6 hours of first-year composition, it's $60 a course. And so it's a way to keep the textbooks affordable, and then students have all of the books they need at the very beginning on the first day of class, whether it's English 1301 or English 1302. So I wanted to provide a 3-year review on our success and completion rates to show that this project has had a positive impact on student achievement. Looking at our success rates, so success is defined as an A, B, or C. Completion is defined as A, B, C, or D. And as you can see, 2019, 2020, we initially piloted the program in 2018, 2019. So we've had 2 cycles. We're coming at the end of our 3rd cycle. If you'll notice the kind of the stats for 1301 kind of dipped at the very beginning, but that's to be expected. We're piloting a new program and a new project, and kind of it takes a little bit for everybody to kind of get on the same page. But if you'll notice, the success rates have actually improved and gone beyond the baseline. And in 1302, we've actually seen the most dramatic improvement in student success, where 84% of students during the pandemic were successful in English 1302, which is really incredible, and we're really proud of that. And so we also anticipate for this year that it will continue to improve. We've also created resources in Canvas for faculty so that we can onboard faculty quickly. We can kind of help train them to know the expectations of the department. Our program is rigorous, so that 84% is not because we are an easy program. Our students are reading 3 books plus a rhetoric textbook every year. Fully, we read all of them. And so for some of our students, when they come to our classes, they haven't read a book since high school. Some of them have never read a book all the way through. And so our students are leaving our first-year composition program having read 3 or 4 books. We have also generated through the royalties to provide professional development. Within the first 3 years, we've generated $30,000 in royalties for full and part-time professional development. We've also included in those awards, awards for students, writing awards. So if a student can win an award for writing that they've done in their class and have it published in the preface, have it published in the Canvas courses. We've also offered student scholarships. And due to COVID, in spring 2020, we had to cancel our face-to-face professional development. So the department voted unanimously to donate the funds that we would have used for professional development for that spring to the Emergency Scholarship Fund. So we donated $10,000 towards student scholarships. So I just wanted to kind of summarize that we've had higher success and completion rates. It's been a more equitable experience for our students. We've had more professional development and more collaboration, especially across the department and throughout the college. If you'll notice on the last page, I included the flyer for the next 3 events that we have coming up. We've partnered with the Honors Program to provide other experiences for students related to this book, because what we really want is to create a culture and an experience for our students. And so there are 3 events coming up you're invited to attend. The links are provided there. You have the books so you can read them. And I just really wanted to take a moment to thank the Board of Regents, thank the Chancellor. We really appreciated the support, and we have hoped and we have worked really hard to be good stewards of your faith in us in the department, and so we really appreciate your continued support for this innovation and towards student success.
So I would like to just verbally and in public here applaud the English department for this work. It's been a huge amount of work. I wish we had a larger audience to applaud you, but good job. I want to make one comment, if I could, Dr. Gregory, and maybe you can highlight it. In the success rate data, one of the things that I think is interesting is you did not see a tremendous increase in success rate at 1301 level, but you did it at 1302.
Yeah.
And what I think that's an indicator of is a more rigorous and intensive 01 that prepped them. So although the rates may seem a little bit flat in 01, you have evidence to suggest by that you are actually getting a more rigorous course. And as a result, 02 is now successful where it was in 04. So I think the flatness doesn't really give due diligence to what work you've done. It's that second level course that makes that evident.
And it is a rigorous program, and so we're quite proud of that. They're writing a lot, and they're reading a lot.
Yeah. So I do have a question, Dr. Wallace and Dr. Gregory as well. Can you tell me, is there a way that we could take this concept and move it to other departments within the college?
Here's what I would say. I was actually talking to a colleague about that yesterday. And I asked her, I said, what would you say is the takeaway from this experience? And she said collaboration. That's been the piece of this that translates to other departments. When you give faculty the time and the space to work with each other, and not just full-time, but also part-time, and bring them into the college and the college experience, we really have been able to we collaborate more often, we have conversations. Students are also collaborating with each other. So they go into their English 1301 course, and then they go into their English 1302 course, and they're like, oh yeah, I read that last semester, what did you think of it? And so they're having conversations. So whereas it may not necessarily be applicable in another program or department to write a custom textbook, it is applicable to have conversations and collaboration. One of the lines that I put in the book, in the preface for students, is that rising tides raise all boats. And we really do believe that we tell students we want the best from you and we want the best for you. And that's the piece that could translate to other departments. When you give them the time and the space and the resources to work together toward a common goal, whether that's, professional development and collaboration, that's the piece that's the part that would replicate well.
And I think the board can choose to challenge us as an administration to find ways in which to promote collaboration. So for example, could be that in the budget process, you ask us to consider giving time allocation and or some funding toward these kinds of partnerships and work where you say, hey, because we gave Dr. Gregory some time away from classroom to work on this. It was important enough, and I we did that and made that decision. I did, and combined with our provost, and that was a good decision. We can do similar things like that, but then we have to understand that, the board's support helps, because what it does is it encourages the innovation of instruction for a period of time where you may have to step out of that classroom, write a book, or work collaboratively. And I think that's how you incentivize more of this. There's a lot of conversation, as you have heard probably, about the textbook issues in higher education. And one of the problems we're seeing is a reliance by a lot of entities, not just NCTC, on access code, on on courses that are already created prior to getting to the academic office. And so this is a way to incentivize in a way that is less money to the student. It's owned and operated by the faculty, and it's a meaningful way to do the same thing, to drive those prices down.
We have, for example, Jared Ince wrote a grant to produce an OER course for tech writing. So while we're not producing a custom textbook for technical writing, he is producing a course that relies on open access resources. And he's collaborating with the technical writing faculty to do that. And so part of that was the grant, hopefully if we get it, would give him the time and the space in the summer to do that work. And so it's not necessarily in the same sort of experience, but it is collaborating with each other in the interest of students doing the best that they can in our courses. So I hope you will attend the event with Jaren Lander on the 7th, and then any of the other events.
That looks like fun.
And I hope you enjoy the book.
It really does.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the Board of Regent Committee reports. Christy, will you give the finance committee report, please?
I will.
We discussed the finance-related agenda items on tonight's meeting. The second quarter investment report, the tuition and fees, and the room and board for next fiscal year. Dr. Miller discussed the federal stimulus funding. Almost all of the student revenue has been distributed. The institutional revenue has been used to cover out-of-pocket expenses and lost revenue. And the college is awaiting their third distribution amount. We also discussed this year's budget in light of enrollment declines and pandemic-related expenses. The budget is in good shape thanks to the hard work on the current budget and the unanticipated support from the federal stimulus spending. We discussed the monthly financials from January and February since we did not meet in February.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. And the next one is the executive committee, and we did meet March the 24th at 5 o'clock here at NCTC. Dr. Wallace reviewed the board agenda for tonight. He also led a discussion around the next level of federal funds that could be administered to the college. He also discussed the enrollment update, which I think we're going to hear more about this evening. And he covered the extensive damages that took place at the Corinth campus and maybe some plans for the utilization of those dollars, insurance monies. And then the last thing was that he led a conversation about the entitled Rural Community College Promise in a Box. And there'll be more details on that coming in the future. All right, that's all the reports that we had for this time. So the next item would be the Chancellor's Administrative Report, Dr. Wallace.
Thank you. Just a few announcements in addition to some things I'd like to just report to you this evening. David Brown, our Associate Vice President of Research and Reporting, just finished serving as the President of the Texas Association for Institutional Research. That's the largest state organization of its kind. The event was held virtually, which is always a challenge, and was the most widely attended, though, event in 43 years of history for the organization. While David will be completing his 3-year term by moving his new role as the immediate past president, David also wanted us to announce tonight that Kate Richardson of NCTC is elected as treasurer for CARE and will begin her 2-year term just in a month or so. And so we would like to congratulate Kate for her election, thank both of them for their service and leadership in the field of institutional research. That is a state agency, I believe, between both community colleges and universities, so we're honored that we have now 2 officers in the last 2 years to be accepted to that group. So we congratulate them on that. In front of you this evening is a colored brochure report on Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, CARISA. We've gone from CARES to CARISA to the next round that we're looking to in the future. This is just a report for each of you that I think really helps you understand the impact we're making on students with those dollars. It's important to understand that we literally have given 2 sets of disbursements since the beginning of the pandemic, equated to $1.9 million per federal funding time period. But the thing that means the most are the comments you see on the right. These are actual narratives from students that responded when all of a sudden they saw that $500 check or that $250 deposit in their account. You know, it's nice to hear, you know, things like, thank you so much for all the hard work and you and the NCTC staff do just to help us succeed. I truly appreciate it. I feel so blessed. I'm honored attending a college that cares. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You don't even know what a blessing is right now. I honestly thought while reading your email that I was looking at a scam of some sort. And so these are the responses that Ms. Carroll and our financial aid department both received. And I just thought this was something that you needed to hear, needed to see. Proud of the work we're doing. That being said, in the next few weeks and an upcoming month, we are scheduled to have a 3rd round of federal money that we are still trying to anticipate what that could be. Dr. Miller may highlight a little bit of it later, but we don't know much right now, to be honest, other than it's probably going to be in the $18 million range. We've already received 2 large levels of that. Our colleagues across the state are with us in that. I spoke to William Serrata, who's the president of El Paso College today, and he's gonna get $50 million just for student aid because they have a large percentage of Pell eligibility. The state is set to receive as much as $16 million from the federal level. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about reporting and how we use those. We feel very confident of the monies we spend towards student directly, but we're also being very, very conservative, and we want the board to know that on other expenditures. We're reclaiming our lost revenue where we believe it's very easy to document. Dr. Miller has done a phenomenal job of that. And we appreciate his work, but we're also going to be conservative in these things, and you'll see us over the next couple of months bring to you some notions of what we believe we should do with those funds that will be constructive for the students, and the end result will be positive for them. But I applaud all that work, and it's been a lot of work. Financial aid had to work hard on that first round because it was not something we're accustomed to, is just awarding monies at a different time of the year, and so appreciate their work so much. On that note, there's a national concern about where we're headed in higher education, specifically that the flagship survey you often hear us talk about, which is the Community College Survey of Student Engagement. You hear us talk about CESI quite a bit. It's interesting, they just did another survey recently asking about students' response to COVID. And you know, we've experienced that at NCTC, but I think it's necessary for the board to understand that in the umbrella of the national response. I think we often get into our numbers and don't realize the impact that these are having nationally. In the pre-pandemic, 77% of those that took this survey said they reported the lack of finances could be an issue, and 49% of the respondents reported that caring for dependents could lead to withdrawal. The data on COVID really has exacerbated that challenge. If you think about it, 28% now of respondents describe their household financial situation as much worse as it was in 2020. And before the pandemic, the situation was worse. We find the data saying it's worse for female students than it is for male students, and particularly for female students who have children living with them or are dependent on them for those children's care. So that is the same we're finding within NCTC's data. Many community college students struggle financially, and won't surprise most of you, but the pandemic introduced a whole set of new challenges to them. And so 19% of respondents in this national survey say they were struggling to pay for college as a result of the pandemic, but that's in addition to the 21% who said they were struggling, but not because of the pandemic, just interrelated things. So it just continues to flow in that concern. Other students reported struggling to pay for college more than traditional age students. So in other words, 25 and older are having more trouble paying than 18-year-olds. And then non-white students are having a whole lot more trouble paying for education than are white students. We heard today a piece of data from one of our colleagues, a large system in the state of Texas, that said that before they adopted, ironically, a textbook policy, that they found that their African American students, only 20% of their students that were African American were even purchasing the textbooks for the courses because they are an impoverished group. And this particular institution serves a large population in poverty. Those that responded that they have children or other dependents, 22% of them said they lacked child care during this process, which also made it difficult. 31% of American Indian and Native American students and 30% of African American students reported that this was an issue for them as well. So it's just a common theme, and it's important that we understand that this is not a year that we're entering that is going to feel normalized for a while. We are not going to be feeling like tomorrow or even 6 months or the fall of 21 that things have automatically and quickly changed. We are looking at long-term effects of a recessionary / pandemic period that we're going to have to work with students. And that's where we want those federal funds I mentioned to go toward, getting people back to work, getting students back to their career opportunities. So we're excited about that. Briefly on Corinth, I would tell you that it is a mess, but we are working diligently to put it back in place. We will be open for fall instructionally, even if we have to keep the first floor at bay. We will have second and third instructional space open. We cannot afford to be closed and meet the demand of our students, so that will be open, but we are reinventing some spaces with just some removal. While half the wall's gone, we thought we'd move the rest of the wall. Specifically, we are creating a main stop like we've seen in Denton, Flower Mound. We will have a main stop in Corinth. Food services is going to be available to them, which we had started when this hit. But we'll be able to expand our testing lab, which is exciting because we do certification exams as well for Microsoft. For example, we have a certification lab that will be moved into that main building that we want to keep host our last Tech Power grant, so that's exciting as well. But we'll keep you informed of that, but right now, insurance is going to be our saving grace for that, as far as we are excited about the fact that we're hoping to get that campus back and running by fall. That's been our primary desire. Finally, I will give you a legislative update that is a little bit concerning to me as of this afternoon, looking at the two different appropriations bills, and specifically how we're being recommended for funding for community colleges. The House side basically is leaving us at where it was, which is a good start point. Don't cut our funding. If you remember, and Ms. Metzler, you would remember that CCAT, TAC, and TCCTA have all asked that we hold harmless 100% because of the pandemic, all community colleges. That's not doing that quite yet, but it is closer than the Senate side. The Senate side is taking a large chunk of money out of contact hour and putting it into success points. That would equate to minimally $750,000 to $1 million hit to NCTC specifically. We would lose that in appropriations since the last biennium. So it's early, but we are working to explain what it would do. As you are aware, we do not solicit specific political vantage points, but we do let our legislators know the impact that decisions make on the college. And so we'll be working diligently with those that are on that. I remind you that Senator Springer is a member of the Higher Ed Committee in the Senate. It's been a very welcomed addition to that. And we have Representative Tam Parker, who is in our Flower Mound campus, who is on the Higher Ed Committee for the House. Both of those gentlemen are extremely cooperative and very open, and we talk to them often. I will probably be down there next week to testify on the TRUE initiative for the state community colleges. The TRUE initiative is the Texas Reskill and Upskilling Education. It's all about workforce. It's all about putting students back to work, and we're asking for $50 million in competitive grant from the state to do that in addition to our appropriations. So looking forward to working with legislators on that. So lots going on. There's a lot of textbook litigation out there right now. Many of our colleagues have opt-in versus opt-out. For example, one of our colleges in the state, with their tuition is included books. That is an opt-out program, and there's a lot of bills that have been filed to say we do not want them to have to opt out, we'd rather them have to opt in. The concern that we would offer is that would affect our technical programs at NCTC. You will hear from one of those probably tonight, especially our health sciences. Dr. Hernandez is here. Cosmetology, some of our technical welding programs come with the kits and the equipment they need. If they opt out, they usually don't start that first day with what they truly need. And we can prove it's not a financial decision, it's a student success decision. And students who do not have their texts and do not have their supplies early on have a failure rate that's higher than those that are ready to start class the first day. So all of us have relinquished commissions long ago that we were making in bookstores. We don't make money off our bookstore relationships. So to say that we're benefiting colleges that include books in certain courses is not true. We are simply benefiting the students. So we would argue that may be a misplaced understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. So working on those. I'm open for any questions, a little longer than I normally take, but there's a lot going on. So any questions?
Okay.
Hey, the only thing, we did meet building and maintenance.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I was gonna bring up the same things in print that Dr. Wallace
Okay.
summarized for us, for sure. And then also just be aware, next month, I believe we're gonna be asked to vote on possible addition to our space in the Denton campus for a science lab. There's a lot of need there in Denton for it, so just kind of want to make everybody aware that we may be asking for some funds to build out the science.
Thank you for catching that, I appreciate it. All right, the next item on our agenda is the financial report. Dr. Miller?
Thank you. If you look in your packet of materials, I believe the first tab is reports, and it begins with the financial statements. And you'll find that you have two sets of monthly financial statements in your packet, one for January and the other for February. And there's a couple of things that I would like to call to your attention, but of course leave the opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have. But if you'll kind of scoot past the first 7 or 8 pages that are January, I'd really like to jump to February for my comments. On the second page under February, budget comparison is the report that I want to call your attention to. You know, now we have just passed the halfway point of the fiscal year at the end of February. And I hate to say, but this is the first month that I've been able to provide you with revenue comparisons from the previous year. You may have noticed in recent months when we compare revenues and expenses to last year, there was nothing there for the previous year. You might recall last year our audit was completed very late. It wasn't until January. And there was a lot going on in our accounting department, with changes, new people, new processes we were trying to integrate. And those revenue numbers were never accurate until we got past the audit. Now that has changed. Now we're to the point, you'll notice in February we do have previous year numbers for both sources and uses of funds. And moving forward, we'll have those comparisons for you every month. And of course, the thing on this page that jumps out at me that I'd like to call your attention to is if you look at the uses of funds at the bottom, that our expenses are running $4.7 million below the same time last year. And so that is wonderful news, but it's also indicative of the very stringent, tough times that we're in with lower enrollment and such that we've been going through. And if you'll jump back about 3 more pages in, you'll come to the cash flow report. And this is the chart that is most reassuring to me every month, at least it has been lately. You'll notice here that our cash balance on hand at the end of February is $3.6 million greater than February of 2020. And that's really amazing to me considering everything that's happened in the past year. But it really is the result of a lot of people throughout the college who have been working very hard, preparing and sticking to a very lean, conservative budget for this current year. Now, like Dr. Wallace said earlier, it's obvious that another contributing factor to these favorable financial numbers has been the unexpected federal funds that have come our way over the last 12 months. And Dr. Wallace and I discussed the federal funds quite a bit with our finance committee when we met last week. And they've already made several comments about it. One thing I wanted to point out to you is that we have had just shy of $3.9 million that has been allocated to us for direct student, essentially compensation. We can't use that money for ourselves at all. So we've had between 3.8 and 3.9 million, and we have already dispersed over 96% of that money. It's already in the hands of our students. We did not want to sit on that money. We wanted to get it out to the students as quickly as possible. Yet the flip side of that, the institutional portion, we've maybe spent less than 25% of the federal dollars that have been allocated toward the college. So in the coming months, we're taking our time to create a strategy to use that in the best manner possible
that will help not just the institution, but even more importantly, our students. Any other questions or comments you might have about anything in the financial report?
Dr. Wallace mentioned earlier about the 3 different levels of funding. I'll just tell you, there's always challenges when you're dealing with the federal government. The first round last spring was the CARES Act. Then around Christmas, we had CRRSA, C-R-R-S-A-A. Now, just in March, the 3rd stimulus package was passed, and it's going to be referred to as ARP. Not for us old people, but it's the American Recovery Plan. So we have 3 different federal stimulus packages, and in each package, there are 3 components. There's one for students, one primary for the institution, and then there's a small supplemental of additional institutional funds. Well, I just want you to realize that, as the federal government tends to do, every one of those sectors has different rules and regulations how and why the funds can and cannot be used. So basically, we're going to be talking about having to keep up with 9 different sets of federal funding over the next few months. And it's a challenging from a bookkeeping standpoint, but we're certain that we've got the folks on hand that will be able to handle it, and trying to focus primarily on the best way to utilize those funds for the institution.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your report, appreciate it. The next item would be the COVID-19 update from Robbie.
Yes, ma'am. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce someone to you. We've hired a new person to help us with emergency management. His name is Dylan Bannister. Dylan, would you stand up, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, how are y'all?
Dylan is a UNT student who will graduate in May through their emergency management program. So we're excited to have him with us. Right now, his primary duties are COVID. That's a load off of mine.
As most emergency management people, I think.
So I want to welcome him to the college. What I have here to report are the current numbers. We're reporting 4 active cases between our students and employees right now as of today. Along with that, we have 3 of them that are quarantined for direct exposure. So we're dealing with 7 cases at the moment. I also want to give you a little update on what we've had since we started back in August. The January numbers were obviously a lot higher. They were the highest months. We had 62 reported cases in January. That dropped down a little bit in February, down to 32. And as of today in March, we're dealing with 11 cases of COVID. So it is trending down. So we just need to keep that going. For the small semester, we will increase our capacity sizes. We're going to move up to 75%, and that's mainly due to the CDC guidelines who said we can, separate 3 feet instead of 6 feet. So that's going to allow us to put a few more students in the classroom, so that's going to help us. We're going to continue our mask policy and our social distancing policies, as well as our cleaning policies that we've got in place right now. We are following the CDC guidelines regarding if you are directly exposed to a case and you have had your vaccination shots or you've had COVID in the last 3 months, then you don't have quarantine. We'll also continue to do our temperature checks when you come into the door. We are allowing a few more activities on campus, not that many, not a large group of folks. We're just kind of trying to monitor that a little bit more, but we are kind of letting a few more folks on campus. And I want to also report to you that we took a little straw poll about how many of our employees have been vaccinated. So right now, we're currently looking at 155 of our employees that have had at least 1 dose. Some of them had been fully vaccinated. And we paid 342 people in March, so that's roughly a little more than 40% of our employees that are vaccinated. So that's good too. questions.
Other questions?
One thing I'd add is kind of an FYI to the board, there will not be a traditional graduation ceremony. Ms. Carroll will deliver that report to you in April, our plans for graduation, but, just a heads up, the board will not be required to, or asked to attend graduation this year. We're doing it in a different venue, in a different way on our campus here, but, we'll let you know about the details of that. But as part of our protocol, we're trying to keep the numbers down, but we do want to celebrate our students graduating, and so that'll come later too.
Thank you for the report. Next item is the spring 2021 institutional enrollment. Ms. Carol.
Good evening, and I'll make this fairly quick. Included in your packet is a spring 2021 enrollment report. Just want to highlight again the hard work that the teams across all the different student-facing offices have been doing. Our recruiters have been doing outreach and various visits, different types of visits, processing applications, taking payments, advising, and then really here to answer students whether or not they're on campus or even virtually meeting with them. Also, just wanted to highlight that next week, on Monday the 5th, we'll open fall 2021 registration for all of our currently enrolled students, and then on Monday, April 19th, all new students will have an opportunity to start registering and enrolling in future classes. Just to highlight on a few things within your packet, I provided a enrollment headcount as of March 24th. NCTC has enrolled 7,834 students for spring of 2021. And as highlighted in your packet, we're down 12.4% compared to 2020. So we are gradually lessening the decrease in enrollment every time that we report, because we've been doing continuous enrollment for the second 8 weeks semester that began last week, and then also we'll continue May semester registration, which is in May. So we account for those things at each time that we report out to you. Additional reports included in your packet are a contact hour comparison for spring 2021 enrollment by gender, just wanting to see if that's changed over time. I'm very interested in that. And then also an enrollment by resident tuition status, and then your final chart and data in your packet is enrollment by race and ethnicity, which we watch very closely. You know, we want to make sure we're representing or, you know, impacting our underrepresented populations, you know, through Achieving the Dream and our EDI efforts. Something that's not included in your packet, but I did want to share, is our retention. Mr. Brown in IR provides that to us very regularly. We do have I think they're pretty impressive retention numbers, all things considered. Our current fall to spring retention is 66.92%. It's only declined less than 1% from last year. And then also our spring to spring for the second 8 weeks and Maymester, our retention is actually up compared to last spring. We're at about 16.5%. So we're retaining students spring to spring. So the efforts that we're doing, the outreach, the different, I think the stimulus and outreach to students is certainly helping explain to them, and really shows to them that NCTC does care about their well-being and really want to help them reach their educational goals. One other update I do want to provide is about Lion Care, which is the 24/7 telehealth service that we implemented actually this spring. Currently, as of Friday, March 12th, which was the Friday before spring break, there's 187 individuals enrolled in that who've activated Lion Care, which is 176 students and 6 part-time staff, and then 5 faculty. So part-time employees do have that benefit of utilizing that. And then 46 have engaged in a medical visit through Lion Care, 21 scheduled counseling sessions, and 25 Talk Now sessions, and then 6 wellness and health coaching sessions. So we're doing efforts to try and, incentivize that particular program and use that as a recruitment tool. And we're going to start incorporating that within our initial
as students are interested about the college, explaining to them that we do have that service provided. So just more, I wanted to provide that to you. I think it's important for you to know, and that we are having students engaging in that telehealth service that you all allowed us to move forward with. Two other things that I did want to mention that we do have coming up, two events that we have two Cox and Communities events that has been coordinated through our employee resource groups. One is coming up this Thursday on April 1st, which will engage our NCTC Police Department, and Chief Shaw has been very involved in that, and I know she's here tonight. And then also on April the 22nd, we'll also have another Cops and Communities event that we're engaging our local police departments, and I believe Gainesville and I think Corinth. So we've had two areas interested in that. So those will be live streamed, so if you want to participate, we'll send more information to you about that. And again, thank you for allowing us, I'm representing faculty, staff, the college to engage and meet students where they are and reach their educational goals. Do you guys have any questions?
Linda, thank you for the report. All right, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda items. Is there any reason that someone would like anything A through F, I believe, to be removed to discuss independently? Okay. If not, then we would need a motion to approve the consent agenda
I
items.
move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Hand, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Bryan, additional discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the discussion of possible action items, and the first one is the consideration of a bid for the air and light truck for that fire and science program.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna stand here and tell you, I have no idea what an air and light truck is. That will answer any questions that you have. But here, I'm presenting this as a request from our fire science program to acquire this air and light truck equipment to better serve our students, to be able to train on this this particular apparatus that will allow the students to, and the truck would allow the truck to go from class to classes at different locations. Currently, this is as I understand, this truck supplies some kind of air that they have to train on. They have to train on this type of equipment. And right now, our instructors are actually filling up the bottles at the fire stations for their use, and that's how they're getting by now. This will make it a lot easier and simpler. And if that's not right, let me know. And anyway, they did buy one, and it is, we put it out for bid since it was over $50,000. We got one bid, and this is the truck that they want to accept, and it's $65,000. I will say that the truck is being paid for by a grant. So if you have any questions, and I'd be glad to let either one of those gentlemen here come to the podium and speak to this if they'd like.
Yeah, maybe, what do they do?
Here we go. I knew I had to leave the back. I'm sorry.
I don't know if we've recognized you since you are now officially Dr. Hernandez, but congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good afternoon, thank you for allowing us to be here, myself and firefighter instructor, Mr. John Bryant. Currently in the fall 2021 semester, we anticipate to have 7 academy classes operating in fire science. One of those will be traditional enrollment, and another 6 will be dual credit classes. We offer fire science dual credit courses at Flower Mound Fire Station 2, Lake Dallas, Louisville High School, and Denton ATC. That's a total of about 110 students currently, and with these COVID-19 cap sizes increasing, we anticipate to take in about 130 to 140 students. Each student is assigned a self-contained breathing apparatus. The SBC uses compressed atmospheric air so students can breathe during these live training scenarios. The SBCAs are the firefighter's life, so to speak, in hazardous environments or during a hazardous material incident. And so the students use these as a part of their daily training. The This can be dangerous. As he mentioned, currently we're using fire station number 2. Instructors are taking those to fill the bottles up, and when you have 4,500 PSI of air bottles, that can be a safety hazard for transport. So that's the main reason why the truck is needed, but we can take the apparatus to the dual credit locations, use them at their facilities, live burn experiences, etc. The truck does have special mounts so they can carry, and the students can learn how to use the apparatus safely along with the instructors. And so it's basically to use in all of these field training exercises. The general cost would be your registration, your oil changes, your maintenance, etc. And so this will really help our program to go beyond where we are currently today, to train the students properly. Any questions that I or Mr. Bryant can answer for you?
One thing we did talk about was the residual value of the asset, if ever sold in 10, 15 years, could cover all the maintenance that is required. So honestly, it's basically a wash.
Okay, yeah, from the grant perspective plus that, yeah.
Correct.
Very
The
good.
grant covers the cost of the apparatus, the truck itself, and then the residual value, if you ever were to sell it, could cover all the maintenance required for the 10 years or however long it lasts.
Very good. Are there other comments, questions? No? All right, so we'd need a, did you want to say something?
No, I applaud the use of Carl Perkins grant money. One of the things that's difficult, and we've had this conversation, Dr. Hernandez, in the departments before, is we're legislatively required to waive tuition and fees for many of our students in these programs. So it helps when we're funding with grant opportunities to support that, because it's a very difficult task. And there's new legislation that's being entertained regarding volunteer fire departments that would fall under that as well. But this group's done phenomenal work. The students that come out of the program are stellar. I applaud the faculty, and the program keeps growing and growing. And I know Sandy would be very happy to know that her son, who's in the program, gets the right kind of air. I'm just going to say that while I'm out.
Thank you for coming and explaining that to us, appreciate it. All right, so we would need a motion to approve the purchase as presented.
I move we accept the bid proposal from Texas Fire Trucks.
So we have a motion. Okay, a motion by Mr. Hayne, we have a second by Mr. Ott. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you.
We beat you with truck.
The next item is the tax abatement for IFS Coatings. Robin.
Right, what we have here is an application for a tax abatement from IFS Coatings. They're located here in Gainesville, north I-35. They are proposing to construct a new manufacturing plant and then a modernization and remodel of the current plant. And I looked at the abatement, all the things they were asking for, and then I checked our guideline for approving tax abatements. They meet all the requirements to approve a tax abatement. However, they were asking for a 10-year abatement. Our guidelines only allow for 7 years. So you as a board can choose to do whatever, but you could approve this for 7 years, and then it'd be up to them to bring the tax abatement application back to us. And at that time, Christine, you would sign it at that time, but it's already been approved. That's what the one is.
That's our guideline.
Yeah, so the thought is that our policy states that we do 7 years.
Yes.
And so
We have a 7-year limit. Yeah,
Right.
on tax.
Does it, so it meets all other, because I thought our policy also had that it was gonna allow for some more jobs and some other things.
It does,
We're good there. Okay.
They'll maintain the current employees of 140 and add 20 additional employees, or at least a total of 60.
Okay.
And that meets the guidelines that we have. I think we have like 15 additional employees over that period of time.
Works for me.
And I believe that we do some continuing education credits for IFS as well. I think there's some instructional partnerships we've had with that industry in the past that also benefits our students from that standpoint.
Yeah, I like it when
believe
we
that's
have
correct,
those
yeah.
partnerships for sure.
And I will say the county did the same thing we're proposing to do as well. They approved it for 6 years.
Yeah, yeah, I think if we have a policy, it probably stands reason to stick with the policy.
Exactly.
That's why they're
That's why we
there.
have one.
Exactly. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the abatement?
I move that we approve the abatement with the 7 years as per our policy.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Grimes, we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Erica Sullivan. Okay, additional discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we have the consideration of setting the tuition and fees for the upcoming 2021-2022 academic year. Dr. Miller.
Thank you. 2 years ago, the college increased tuition and fees, and at that time, it was stated that those rates would stay in effect for at least 2 years. Now, here we are 2 years later, and those rates are still the same. But this time, the administration does not feel like an increase would be prudent in the current economic climate. So essentially, what you'll find that we're asking for is essentially an extension of the current rates for yet another year. But there is one significant exception. If you look at the second page, we are asking for an exception to have a unique tuition table for the upcoming fall term, but only the fall term. What you find on that second page is there is an additional column that's been added for discount. You may remember last year during the summer when we first got some of our federal stimulus money, we decided to offer a tuition discount to encourage enrollment during the summer. We were afraid we might lose a lot of people. Well, actually, it was very successful, and our summer enrollment in the middle of a pandemic was actually higher than the previous summer. So what we're looking at doing is possibly doing something like that again with some of these new federal stimulus dollars and offer a tuition discount for students for the fall term. And what we're proposing as listed there, in district, the $25 discount, the in-district branch campus students, $30, in-state or out of district, $40, and out of state, $50. That may sound like we're giving more to the people who are not necessarily our tax-paying citizens, but if you look at that as a percentage, both of the in-district categories are receiving a 25% discount. The in-state out-of-district is actually a 21% discount, and the out-of-state is a 17% discount. So we just tried to stick with nice round numbers, 25, 30, 40, and 50 to make the calculations simple. I have estimated that if we were to have about the same enrollment as the previous year, it would cost about $2.5 million in our stimulus dollars from the federal government, which we obviously have, and we expect more. At this time, we are only comfortable offering this for the fall, see how successful we are, see how things have progressed with the pandemic, are things coming back to normal, and then we would revert back to the regular tuition table for the spring. And so that's why that's also included there. So we're basically asking for a unique tuition table for the fall term, but then in the spring and the following summer, it reverts back to the exact same tuition table we've had for the past 2 years.
One just further point that when we say fall, we do intend 16-week, first and second 8-week, and December semester in fall, just so that the board's clear about that.
That rate would basically be in effect for all terms until the end of the calendar year. Once we start January, all the terms will go back to the old tuition table.
It also does not, just for the board again, this does not include dual credit tuition rates. They will remain the same discount rate that they've been.
They already have a discount, that's correct. So it really is a win-win situation. We get students with anywhere from 17 to 25% discount to enroll in classes, but the college will still receive the same amount of money because we'll supplement that discount with federal funds.
Are other institutions like ours doing the same thing?
Other institutions are doing all sorts of things. I do know this is one of the ideas that's being considered. This is one of those sectors of funds we're allowed to do it. I don't want to go into too many details. We can't use the student dollars for a student tuition discount. Just the way the federal government has
has done that, but this will be institutional dollars, but we truly feel we'll be benefiting from it, but we're also using it in a manner our students are also going to benefit from those institutional dollars.
And Mr. Hayden, from a North Texas regional response, I have heard no plans as of yet by other institutions to do this exact plan or the discount. As Dr. Miller said, there's just so many nuances to some of those. Our colleagues have lost more revenue, and in order to keep their employment base in place, they're gonna have to capture that lost revenue for employment of their, of their team. But we feel very comfortable too, as Dr. Miller alluded to. We feel really comfortable about the fact it's still going back to students. So when you report this back, it's lost revenue, but it benefited the students. And so that's an easier argument with federal requirements later on, is my thought there.
And one thing I would just say, I am very proud of this institutional's response to utilizing these funds and getting the money in circulation, which it's what the federal government is wanting. Both of the first 2 rounds of student funding, I know for a fact we were one of the first schools in the state to disperse those funds to students. And we're in a situation right now where, yes, we're taking our time with institutional. We want to make sure we're being prudent. But we also saw this window of opportunity because we knew we had to pass tuition rates tonight. So let's go ahead and do it now so we have the next 4 or 5 months to advertise this to our students so they know you come here in the fall, you're going to have a tremendous benefit to take advantage of this. So we're very, very hopeful that other schools will follow our lead and do something similar.
All right, very good, thank you. We would need a motion to approve the tuition fees for the upcoming 2021-2022 academic year.
I move that we go ahead and accept the tuition fees as presented for the 21-22 academic year.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hand, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ott. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, and the next item is the consideration of the residence hall meal rate plan for the 21-2022 year. Dr.
This is short and sweet. We would like to keep the rates right where they are.
How are our costs in relation over the last 2 years? Have we increased?
The dorm costs, there's minimal increase, if any.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, when it comes to room and board, to a great extent, most of that spending is done with institutional scholarship dollars anyway. When we raise these rates, we're basically raising it on ourselves and creating the budget. So we have very few actual members of the public who are actually purchasing room and board.
Translation athletics.
Yeah.
Scholarship, and so that's who is, and especially this year, empty first semester, and then bringing students back like we did, has been a really good experience actually, but we're not at capacity, and so we're having to look at that, but.
Okay, all right, thank you. You need a motion to approve the resident hall meal rates.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Ott, no second. Second by Eric Sullivan. Do we have any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I actually
Sorry.
had a question.
Okay.
What capacity or what are we expecting it to be like in the future?
So, as far as actually how many we can have in the dorm, we're still under, rules created by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board right now, and that applies to both community colleges and universities. We're at a half kind of 50-60% vacancy rate right now. As the CDC lets up on regulations, we hope that by fall of next year we would be more at 100%, but we even have varied what that is. So what we're trying not to do is over inundate a dorm space with 4 to 5 in a suite like we would sometimes do, and we're keeping those at bay. I think you'll see us continue to do that in the fall for sure, until we just know where we're going to be. We've been very fortunate not to have very many cases in the dorm bluntly. We've had a few, but well handled, no spread, and we're also relying on the NJCAA. They've got a lot of regulations they're giving to us. I serve on that state task force, and actually I chaired the task force for all of this for the state presidents, and we're meeting again in a couple of weeks to see where everybody is. So hopefully by fall we'll have 100%, but that is even a fluid number, because we just sometimes 100% is 150 students, sometimes 100% occupancy, been 180 at the top. So that's a good question. Yeah.
Additional discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. So there's no more discussion. We'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is executive session, and we will have an executive session this evening. So if I could ask, well, I'll read this first. The board will now recess this regular meeting and go directly into executive session as provided for in the following Texas Government Code, Section 551072, deliberations for real property. So we will we'll stay here, I guess, this evening. So we'll ask the audience to exit the room, and we'll, the Vice Chancellor would like to stay, please.